Hello, friends, and welcome into The Lord and the Rings because we think that two things are better than one. I don't know. Anyways, I hope your week has been good. I hope your year has been good, but listen. I have an idea to make it better. What if we read The Lord of the Rings together? Every week, I'll make a video on that week's chapter. I'm thinking we start simple, we start small, maybe a brief summary, less than 60 seconds because that's boring. Then my 10 favorite moments and themes that I pick up on, and then some questions for you guys, from you guys, for you guys. I don't know. I don't care. I can deal with comments live from previous episodes. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll get going. But that's what I want to do in this video. So pause this for a second, okay? Go grab your favorite edition of the Fellowship of the Ring. We are going to start there, read the prologue, and then come back to this video, and then let's just do one chapter a week. Maybe some chapters we take 2 weeks on, but no more than two, because that's boring too. I am by no means a Tolkien scholar. I just love this series, guys, and I want to learn. I want to grow and know a lot more than I do now. I'm sure that's true of you as well. Maybe you are someone who is like a master and you would have to teach us Padawans. That's great. But you also have to know that I'm a pastor. And what that means practically for this is that I love making connections to the biblical worldview. And I love pressing into moments and scenes and characters that from the legendarium that, man, help us to live and follow Jesus in just creative, non-familiar ways, and that's what some of my other videos are on. And so even though I'm posting these once a week, I'll be posting other videos that are just snapshots into some of the deeper things, like even stuff we're going to get into today. I've already made videos on that have been posted, I think, if I get my schedule right. And just a deep dive into these moments and see how it applies and is practical to us, because I love doing that, maybe to a fault. And so if that annoys you, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I'll be posting videos along the way. And the idea is just to find this intersection, this crossroads between Jesus and Middle Earth, which is why I call it The Lord and the Rings. It's a conjunction. Yay. I'd also like you to invite a friend or a family member along to read along with you, even your kids. I promise to make all of this family friendly. I have a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, almost 7-year-old who will watch these videos, no doubt make fun of me, but they love and want to love and will love The Lord of the Rings more than they do right now. But I just think reading together with others is about as fun as it can get, and it is a lost art that, that I just think is so much fun. So, assuming you've read the prologue or it's fresh on your memory, or if you even want to watch this and then go back and read the prologue, fine. I'd ask you to subscribe real quick, ring the bell for notifications so that you are actually reminded of these videos each week. Please comment. Like, genuinely, maybe the second main reason why I'm making these videos is to build a community where we like Tolkien together. First is to know more about Lord of the Rings, but that's enough said. Okay, so let's start with a summary real quick, just of the prologue. You'll see how quick I want to do it. The prologue is what you'd expect. It introduces the Hobbits. It introduces their history, their customs. It's all based on this fictional travel narrative called the Red Book of Westmarch. You got to love that Tolkien did that. Try to make it real life, and that's going to be a bit of a theme. But hobbits are small, peaceful creatures. They live in the Shire. They're known for their love of comfort and food. And we get the quickest recap ever of Bilbo Baggins' his adventure from The Hobbit during the prologue, including his discovery of this magical ring and this encounter with this hideous creature named Gollum. And so Tolkien presents the story as a historical record, and then he blends all these sources to create this rich world history, all of which we look forward to pressing into. And the way that he does it is to bring this fictional world closer to home, closer to reality. He wants to mingle these two worlds from this this Red Book of Westmarch, which is why I'm excited about this channel, to mingle two worlds as well. So here in the prologue, we find that hobbits are unlikely heroes, just like you, just like me. Okay, pretty good summary. With that, let's dive into my 10 favorite moments. And these will kind of be in chronological orders that you can follow along, or You just know them. And I would love to hear your favorite moments down below. So Tolkien really tries to make this feel real. And we see that in even one of the opening paragraphs. Here's highlight number 10. Even in ancient days, they were, as a rule, shy of the big folk, as they call us. And now, and I think how they avoid us with dismay. There's going to be a lot of typos along the way, guys. That's on me, not Tolkien. And are becoming hard to find. They are quick of hearing and sharp-eyed. I got to do better. And though they are inclined to be fat and do not hurry unnecessarily, they are nonetheless nimble and felt in their movements. I think it says felt. I'm not doing too good. They possessed from the first the art of disappearing swiftly and silently when large folk whom they do not wish to meet come blundering by. In this art they have developed until to men it may seem magical. But hobbits have never, in fact, studied magic of any kind, and their elusiveness is due solely to a professional skill that heredity and practice, and a close friendship with the earth, have rendered inimitable by bigger and clumsier races. So I do have a hot take real quick. Do y'all think hobbits are OP? Are they overpowered? Like, I don't know. I know they're small and they're simple and there's other problems that we'll dive into, but they're sneaky. They can grow things. They're crazy resilient. They're good at throwing rocks, and maybe their size is actually an advantage in a fight, especially as you think through their stealth. I kind of say this as a joke, but it reminds me of playing World of Warcraft and playing as the Horde and trying to click on the gnomes from the Alliance before I learned you could tab to target them. I digress. Anyways, let's take Tolkien's advice and see our world through the window of Middle-earth in order to see clearer, not faker, but clearer our world. It's like, let's use this legendarium as the screen, this glass screen to look through into our own world, to make our world more colorful, more clear. Okay, that's a good setup. Second is, as the description unfolds, we get another piece of the puzzle with hobbits. Yet it is clear that hobbits had, in fact, lived quietly in Middle-earth for many long years before other folk became even aware of them. And the world being, after all, full of strange creatures beyond count, these little people seemed of very little importance. But in the days of Bilbo and of Frodo his heir, they suddenly became, by no wish of their own, both important and renowned, and troubled the counsels of the wise and the great. So there's a Latin phrase, nolo episcopari, that essentially means, I don't want to be bishop. And it's this old tradition to refuse power in the church, and Tolkien has a theme that those who don't want power are sometimes the ones that should have it. Does power corrupt people? Does power merely attract the corruptible? Does power simply expose people for what they are? It doesn't matter. The point is that these unlikely hobbits, the small and the ordinary, become the perfect bearers of an insane amount of power, and good comes of it. So this is humble beginnings. We know great power is coming their way, but it's just this idea of being humble and low. Okay, next up is the worst, most dangerous part of the hobbits. And this is where we see that they aren't perfectly romanticized creatures. After all, that there is indeed major flaws with this race. And I just did a video. If I'm good, and I'm not, there should be something popping up here. If it doesn't pop up, then, well, my bad. But here we go. This is what is, I think, one of the most frightening things about hobbits. The land was rich and kindly. The hobbits named it the Shire, as the region of the authority of their thane, and a district of well-ordered business of living. And they heeded less and less the world outside, get this, where dark things moved, until they came to think that peace and plenty were the rule in Middle-earth, and the right of all sensible people. They forgot or ignored what little they had ever known of the guardians, and of the labor of those that made possible the long peace of the Shire. They were, in fact, sheltered, but they had ceased to remember it. Make no mistake, Tolkien does not at all mean any of this in a good way. This is very dangerous. And again, I have done a video on this. I would encourage you to watch it to press in deeper to why I think it's so dangerous. But for now, let's just remember that the fact that hobbits live in a delusion, a forgotten delusion, is so frightening. And their little world is going to rupture. And it's actually a good thing that it does rupture by someone like Gandalf instead of, I don't know, the dark things that are moving, winning, and then conquering them like that. It would have happened like that, and they would have no idea because they forgot that there is a darker, deeper world out there. And it's a terrifying reality that we are not invulnerable to today. And so watch the videos. I connect it to the church and us as Christians as we are at war, even as we follow Jesus. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, the context of the next one is I'd like to throw a question at you, and we'll make it interactive once I read this. 3 elf towers of immemorial age were still to be seen on the Tower Hills beyond the western marches. They shone far off in the moonlight. The tallest was furthest away, standing alone upon a green mound. The hobbits of West Farthing said that one could see the sea from the top of that tower, but no hobbit had ever been known to climb it. Okay, so for some of us, this is so frustrating. I mean, to think that there are 3 towers out there that are in walking distance that we could go and climb. For some of us, this is like a dumb moment. No way I'm climbing to the top of those towers. Thank you. But without any hobbit bashing, for some of us, it's like, man, I would get after it. And so I want to hear it from you, maybe in the comments below. Would you have climbed those towers or not? I think, if anything, for Tolkien and what he's doing here, this is wonderful world building, and it's fun to put ourselves into the hobbit's shoes. Like, no hobbit has ever climbed it. Okay, now we know kind of a little bit more what hobbits are like, if hobbits had shoes. Anyways, but it helps us see just how far Frodo has to go outside of his instincts, has to go outside of his genetics, has to go outside of his culture, outside of his stories in order to make it all the way to Mordor as he does. These are people who have never even been to the towers, let alone, the tower, the Mount Doom. And so it is some interesting little, foreshadowing, if you will, just to build a world and to show the wildness of Frodo and what this journey is going to take. It's going to take a toll on him. Okay, up next is a nightmare for most of us, and this is highlight number 6. I'll try to say that more often. Sometimes, as in the case of the Tooks of Great Smiles or the Brandybucks of Brandy Hall, many generations of relatives lived in comparative, no sarcasm there, peace together in one ancestral and many-tunneled mansion. All hobbits were, in any case, clannish and reckoned up their relationships with great care. They drew long, elaborate family trees with innumerable branches. And so it's not even the family trees. That's charming. That's fun. I love that. It's important to hobbits. But could you imagine living in a cold, wet, damp tunnel, dark tunnel with your in-laws? It just sounds awful. But, the one thing that I think is convicting and worth pondering, and I say that as a joke, but let's get kind of serious for a second, is how hyper individual we've all become as family units. I think the old of our culture aren't prized as much as they used to be, and as they are in other countries and other cultures right now. They're not taken care of. They're not prized in the same way. And so, our old people are walking libraries. They are filled with wisdom, and they're so crucial, especially as I think about my kids being around older people, which is one reason why we've tried to keep them around our grandparents and so forth, but it's so crucial at church. One of the great kind of unspoken benefits is for them to see and be around and learn from the older humans, like what hobbits did. No, I don't want to live in a tunnel with anyone. No way. But we often don't appreciate, we often don't take care of them in the way that they need, that they deserve. And so, this is a cultural critique, but let's use it to love on the elderly of our life this week. Let's go an extra step this week to love on someone that's old in your life because they deserve it. Let's go to highlight number 5. This is a bucket list item for this year. Here we go. This, he says, is the one art that we can certainly claim to be our own invention. What's he talking about? That's right, pipe smoking. When hobbits first began to smoke is not known. All the legends and family histories take it for granted. For ages, folk in the Shire smoked various herbs, some fouler, some sweeter. I mean, come on, this had to be mentioned. It's so crucial to Hobbit culture. The Hobbits invented smoking like this, pipeweed. And my bucket list this year, you guys hold me to it. Who wants to join me? Put it in the comments below. Maybe I'll make a video on it just to be dumb. Is to buy a pipe and to learn how to smoke it. Preferably, long bottom leaf or Southern Star. I'm just kidding. Those are examples given in the prologue. They're probably not real. Whichever one is sweeter. I can barely handle a cigar. And so I don't know how pipes are going to work. But anyways, anyone have any help that they would like to offer me on how to do this? My wife, actually, just thinking about this, about 5 years ago, bought me a replica of Gandalf's pipe. It's really long, has the little, end. And I might start with that, but that sounds actually pretty hard. Anyways, that's a bucket list for me. So I don't know about you. Okay, let's move on. Highlight number 4. And we're moving backwards from 10 to 1. I hope that has made sense. As we progress here, we're going to get into the matter of family and government and family government, but we're not going to get political. No way. Here we go. The Shire at this time had hardly any government. Families, for the most part, managed their own affairs, growing food and eating it, occupied most of their time. In other matters, they were, as a rule, generous and not greedy, but contented and moderate, so that estates, farms, workshops, and small trades tended to remain unchanged for generations. There is a bit of idyllic romanticism there, right? On the next page in my copy, the only real official in the Shire at this date was the mayor of Michael Delving, or of the Shire, who was elected every 7 years at the Free Fair, on the White Downs, at the Lith, that is midsummer. And as mayor, I think his only duty was to preside at banquets. Is that what I have? I didn't put it on here. But again, I'm not going to get political here or anywhere. But the idea of government is fascinating. I think about it sometimes just as a thought experiment. I'm sure we've all had deep thoughts about it, how easy it seems to govern a people, to just run things, right? Just run things as a family until a crime occurs and there needs to be justice. Or a car is invented, and who's going to build the roads? Or a war party arrives on your doorstep, and it's like, what do we do for a military? Do we pay the military? Who's going to be the military? It gets complicated real quick. For those who are political gurus, I'd actually really be interested in this. How would you classify the government system of the Shire? I read of a thane and a mayor and a king with guardians surrounding the place. All of this is above my pay grade, but it's just a fascinating thing to think through how the hobbits have run themselves and how they run themselves. Okay, let's move on. Highlight number 3. As fun as the hobbits have been, it's time to get the plot moving. And so Tolkien whips us into high gear pretty abruptly by finally mentioning the ring and its finding. Bilbo was lost for a while in the black orc mines deep under the mountains. And there, as he groped in vain in the dark, he put his hand on a ring lying on the floor of a tunnel. He put it in his pocket. It seemed then like mere luck. Now this begins a very complex, nuanced relationship between the ring and Sauron and the ring bearer. Is it luck? Is it fate? Is it dominion? How often does Eru, Iluvatar, creator of all, intervene? We will find out more and more in chapters to come, especially soon chapters, that this ring can utterly overcome anyone who possesses it. So it gets real shady real quick. It targets its bearer, its owner. And so there is a true magic with this ring, a real danger to it. But for now, this is just crucial for understanding the plot and some of the key characters of the whole tale. And we have to see that the One Ring is a character. It is not just a plot device. It is not just, a prop. It is a character, and it has a will. Is it Sauron's will through this ring? Well, that's stuff that I want to get to know a lot more, and I think we'll get that. Let's get to highlight number 2, because we're going to get a great summary and I think thematic introduction to the ring bearer and his first action with the ring. I'll talk about that in a second. There Gollum crouched at bay, smelling and listening, and Bilbo was tempted to slay him with his sword, but pity stayed him. And though he kept the ring in which his only hope lay, he would not use it to help him kill the wretched creature at a disadvantage. And so this is going to be a pretty big theme, that the first, and it's a part of the magic, and it's part of the consuming that the ring does. The first act as ring bearer that he or she has or it has with the ring matters. It actually determines a lot. For Bilbo, the fact that he, in pity, started with pity and did not slay Gollum, it helped him endure the ring's assertion of dominion far longer than if he would have started otherwise. Like the effects take longer to take hold. That said, the effects of the ring are inevitable. He would have become a ring wraith, and so this slowed it down. And the fact that he gave up the ring voluntarily, or so Gandalf says, I'm not so convinced. I think we're going to talk about this in the next video on, did Bilbo actually give it up purely voluntarily or did he not? I've been looking into this some. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. It at least prevents his mind from breaking. Like Gandalf could not take it from him, but there is this weird interplay. Anyways, for us, what we can't do as readers is underestimate the power of the ring nor the power of pity. It is a strong theme, both of these, and it's a beautiful theme throughout Tolkien's work, especially thinking about pity, to look upon the pitiful, the small, the ordinary, the powerless, the outsider, and extend mercy. That's a powerful thing. And we know that that bubbles up from the Christian worldview as we look especially to the person of Jesus, who came for the least, the last, and the lost as the good shepherd. But Gandalf is often doing the same thing. We see Bilbo doing the same thing. And we see Frodo struggling with this, I think, in the next chapter, maybe in 2 chapters. But let's get to this is our last one, our last highlight. Oh my gosh. We're going to end with some major conflict that seems harmless enough for now, but it's not going to stay that way. What happens when you mix Gandalf, the ring, and Bilbo? Well, listen to this. Gandalf, however, disbelieved Bilbo's first story as soon as he heard it, and he continued to be very curious about the ring. Eventually, he got the true tale out of Bilbo after much questioning, which for a while strained their friendship. But the wizard seemed to think the truth important. Okay, now I might talk about this a little bit longer because I think it's so crucial. Gandalf is an obvious and non-obvious hero of this story. And I want you to watch Gandalf move behind the scenes. This wizard, I think, maybe this is a hot take, but the first thing you think of when you think of Gandalf should be friend. The wizard as friend must become central because so much of what he does, especially behind the scenes, shows true friendship. Listen, true friendship. There's a proverb, I want to read it, Proverbs 27:6. It says this: faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Okay, faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Proverbs 27:6. And I think that is so key to keep in mind behind the scenes, because Gandalf is known for crazy magic, epic cinematic moments, but without his counsel and wisdom and ordinary bravery and confrontation of getting into people's grills, Bilbo, Frodo, Middle-earth, everyone would have perished for sure. The last line, here, let me go back here. Confusing my buttons. Look at that last line. The wizard seemed to think the truth important. That's something that we have lost in this culture. Friendships these days is defined by how tolerant you are to another. And that doesn't hold up in a world at war. Okay, that doesn't hold up when people actually do dumb things and evil exists in an objective way. It does not hold up in our world either. We wonder why loneliness is literally an epidemic. You can Google that right now. It's an official thing. It's because we only have ourselves, and everyone that's considered a friend are only those that affirm us, that tolerate us. And that's not friendship. True friendship. In Middle-earth, many people experienced Gandalf getting in their face and wounding them. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Gandalf gets into people's face and he hurts them. He breaks their ideas down. He destroys their and exposes their intentions. And it's not because he's evil. And I think we need more of that too. Let's stop giving kisses like cowards and affirming and tolerating people as if we're enemies, because that's what we're doing. We're supporting. We are wind in the sails of our friends doing dumb things. We got to be like Gandalf, even if it strains the relationship. Isn't that what it said? Yeah, for a while it strained. Look at this. For a while it strained their friendship. I mean, that sucks. I don't know if you've ever done this. It's awful to have your friendship strained, but it's worth it if you consider truth important. And truth in that, it is as we're going to read, it's going to lead to freedom. Truth leads to freedom. And so we've got to lovingly wound people. We need to accept people lovingly wounding us for the sake of truth, which, as we look into the next chapter, again, that's what leads to freedom. Okay. Well, there's our prologue recap. I would encourage you to, again, grab a friend, read chapter 1, catch yourself up so that next week we can run it back, because I hear a party is underway. I don't know. Again, please comment below, subscribe. If there's any, hey, just between you and me, if there's any critiques that you would make about how I'm running these episodes, I would love it. This is the first one. I want to get better. And so maybe you can practice wounding a friend by telling me, hey, this wasn't good. This is good. More of this, less of this. But until then, please subscribe, join the company. Bye for now.